Continuing in this series, our checklist for long-term sustainable weight loss looks like this. In the previous video, we determined that we must reduce our intake of refined grains in order to aid our efforts. As you may remember, processing and refining a grain removes everything except the starch. This includes the fiber. I believe we all know that fiber is important, but why it's important is a little less clear. So let's take a look at fiber and see if we really need it in our diet, and if so, why? Be sure to check out Dr. Jason Fung's blog post on the topic, and feel free to watch or rewatch the videos in my other series for a deeper understanding of the science and studies behind my statements. And the giveaway is still on, so stick around to the end of the video for more info on that. So what exactly is fiber? Dietary fiber, to be more specific. Dietary fiber, or roughage, is the portion of plant-derived food that cannot be completely broken down by human digestive enzymes, or in layman terms, the non-digestible part of a food, typically a carbohydrate. And as in the formal definition, these are usually plants, with the occasional exception of some animal foods. The main sources of dietary fiber include, but are not limited to, whole grains, fruit, vegetables, legumes, and nuts. Fiber is classified under two components, soluble or insoluble, meaning whether or not the fiber can be dissolved in water. Examples of soluble fiber are avocado, beans, and berries. Examples of insoluble fiber are leafy vegetables, nuts, and flax seeds. In addition to solubility, fiber is also classified based on fermentability. Fermentable fibers feed the bacteria and microbiota of the large intestine and are metabolized to yield short-chain fatty acids such as acetate, butyrate, and propionate. In general, soluble fiber has more fermentability than non-soluble. Fiber has many processes in the body that may be, and probably are, beneficial to overall health. But how important each of these processes may be isn't really known. High fiber foods generally require more chewing. A popular method of eating in the early 20th century was known as Fletcherizing. Horace Fletcher postulated that if one chewed every bite of food 100 times, then this would lead to weight loss. And he lost 20 pounds using this method. And there's probably some fact involved, but this method of eating has fallen away with our much more fast-paced society. I mean, who could really be bothered to chew each bite of food 100 times? Now, fiber may also decrease palatability, or the pleasure taken while eating a food. This may serve to reduce food intake. A good example of this is when children, or carbohydrate addicts, are drawn more to white bread and pasta as opposed to the whole grain varieties. Fiber also bulks up and decreases energy density. Soluble fiber absorbs water and forms a gel, which increases its volume and signals satiety or a feeling of fullness. Also, this increased bulk may cause the stomach to empty more slowly, which causes slower rises in glucose and insulin after eating. As the soluble fiber gel passes into the small intestine, contact of food with the intestinal wall is blocked. This has the effect of reducing the absorption of fats and proteins. This may actually decrease stomach emptying even further. This phenomenon is known as the ileal brake. And once into the large intestine, the bulked fiber reduces the transit time of, well, let's see an emoji. Yeah, there you go. So to sum all of that up, fiber may decrease food intake, slow down absorption in the stomach and small intestine, and then exit quickly through the large intestines. Dietary fiber intake is estimated to be between 77 and 120 grams per day in Paleolithic times. Traditional diets are estimated to have about 50 grams per day, and the modern American diet typically contains 15 grams or less of fiber per day. Remember that when a carbohydrate is processed, the fiber is removed, which increases texture and taste. This leads to greater consumption and greater profits for food companies. As you may know from my other series, the low-fat craze began in the 1970s here in the United States. Lowering fat in your diet was not compatible with also lowering carbohydrates, so carbohydrate consumption increased. As we also know, most carbs in the Western diet are refined carbs. But as we've seen, it's not really carbohydrates that are the problem, but instead the lack of fiber within them. In 1977, dietary guidelines in the U.S. called for foods with adequate starch and fiber. Fiber was obviously good for you. You should eat more of it. But how is it good for you? Originally, people believed that increasing fiber intake would lower one's risk of colon cancer. Unfortunately, a 16-year study of over 88,000 women showed no benefit to colon cancer. So, then scientists' sights were set on heart disease. A study of over 2,000 men tried out 3 different diets after each subject's first cardiac event. Amazingly, the low-fat American Heart Association diet had no effect on the risk of heart disease. But the high-fat Mediterranean diet did lower the risk of heart disease. Go figure that. This and follow-up studies actually showed that dietary fat intake was beneficial for reduced risk of heart disease. But that's definitely another video. But what about fiber? Nope, no benefit to heart disease. In fact, in this study, increased fiber intake correlated to an increased mortality rate. So what's going on? I mean, we all know that fiber is good. There's definitely a measurable correlation between increased fiber intake and decreased body mass index. So what are we missing? The problem with fiber is in how we generally think of food: vitamins, minerals, macro and micronutrients. With fiber, the benefit comes not as a nutrient, but as an anti-nutrient, meaning fiber is not beneficial in what it adds to your diet, but in what it removes from your diet. Soluble fiber reduces the absorption of carbohydrates and thus reduces blood glucose and insulin levels. Remember that insulin is what causes obesity and type 2 diabetes. So a food that lowers insulin is obviously beneficial. If we remember that refined carbohydrates are metabolic poison, then we can think of fiber as the antidote to this poison. All plant foods in a natural, unrefined state contain fiber, with the notable exception of honey. They were designed and evolved this way, with the antidote alongside the poison. The refining of carbohydrates removes the fiber, the antidote, and all you're left with is the metabolic poison. Unfortunately, in the majority of our Western diet, carbohydrates are refined. If you walk through the middle aisles of your standard American grocery store, there's literally almost nothing but processed and refined foods. This is due in part because we like to store our foods here in the Western Hemisphere for days, weeks, and months at a time. Processing helps make that possible. Removing fiber increases palatability and texture. Removing fat increases shelf life. We've seen from this video alone that those two are key factors for our health. Remember that obesity and diabetes are caused by insulin resistance, which is itself caused by persistent high levels of insulin. Studies have shown that even when eating a high glycemic index diet, but also eating high amounts of fiber, the risk of diabetes is reduced. And the flip side, eating a high GI diet with low amounts of fiber greatly increases the risk of diabetes. In reality, by as much as 75%. But in one study, all disease was increased by 217%. That's the toll that processed foods will take on your body. Obviously, the best ratio is low glycemic index foods with high fiber intake. but a low GI diet with low fiber can also work. This makes it very clear that we must add fiber to our diet to aid our weight loss efforts. But the best idea is to eat food that has not had the fiber removed. Get your fiber from the foods you eat rather than as supplements. This is how our bodies were designed to work. Now, if you feel you must use a supplement for fiber, then take it just before or during a meal for maximum effect. Drinking a glass of dissolved fiber in the morning or before bed shows little benefit. And there you go. Eat fewer refined carbohydrates and thus add fiber into your diet. Better health, better weight. Now in the next video, we'll look more into the time-dependent factors of weight loss, the when to eat question. Be sure you're subscribed and have alerts enabled in order to be notified when new videos post. And if you're so inclined, please give me a thumbs up on this video as well as any other videos you like, as that helps my channel get more exposure. I'm giving away your choice of a $25 Amazon gift card or a copy of each of Dr. Fung's books when the channel hits 12,500 subscribers. To enter, be sure you're subscribed and leave a like and comment related to the video. As always, thanks so much for watching, and until next time, keep being a loser.